Hi, Bill Stunt here, contributor to Recording Magazine with part 2 of my video tutorial on parallel compression. In part 1, I showed you a couple of techniques on how to apply parallel compression to a single track. Today, I'd like to show you how to create a parallel compression chain to modify a group of tracks or a submix. Now, as a reminder, parallel compression is a mix technique that allows you to achieve many of the positive effects of normal serial or inline compression without obviously altering the natural dynamics of the sounds being processed. This technique, if used properly, is particularly effective on percussive sources. In addition to achieving some gain management without obviously altering the natural dynamics, the technique has the added benefit of creating a sense of snap and pop to the sound, and that adds a pleasant sensation of excitement to a drum or percussion track. I'm going to show you how to create a parallel compression chain that allows you to route the individual elements of a drum submix. And that allows you to fine-tune the effect by having precise control over the amount each element in the submix is sent to the compressor. Here we go. Working with a group of tracks or a submix, to employ parallel compression, it's far more effective to use a signal path that employs an aux input or a bus and a send architecture. And I'm going to show you how to do that today in Pro Tools. And if you're not a Pro Tools user, don't be put off. Everything I'm going to show you in general is applicable to just about any modern DAW. Now, I've got a drum submix that I've been working on for some time. As you can see, I've added a channel strip and a little bit of EQ to each element in the submix. I've actually even done a bit of compression. I put just a tiny bit there on the snare drum and a little bit on the kick drum. Not a lot, but it's to the point where I'm thinking that this track is sounding pretty good, which is important. You don't want to start working on parallel compression until you have the track or the submix worked up to the point where it's almost there. You actually have to be starting with something that's solid and close to showtime. But I know when I get to all the other elements in there, I'm going to want a little bit more weight to the track. I want a little bit more consistency. And most importantly, I want a little bit more snap, pop, and excitement. And I'm going to show you how I would do that. So to do that, as I said, I'm going to use a bus or an aux input. And in Pro Tools, the way to do that is to hold down the Shift Command N key command to get that new track dialog. I'm going to select Stereo aux input. And I'll create that. It's created it here. I'm going to go ahead and give it a name just so it's easy to find as I begin to assign some sends. Now, the quickest way to set up my sends in Pro Tools is to select all the tracks in the drum submix. And from all the way on the left there to the kick, to all the way here on the right, the room mics, I select them all. And then I'm going to use a really handy key command in Pro Tools, the Apply to Selected, which is the Shift Option key command. I'll hold that down while I go to this first available send and go down here to track, and I assign that to that drums compressed stereo aux that we just created. And as you can see, because I use that Apply to Selected key command, I got a send set up on each one of the tracks in my drum submix. Now I'm going to use that key command again, that Apply Selected, that Shift Option, and I use that to toggle on FMP, which stands for Follow Main Pan or Link to Main Pan. And what that does is it keeps everything in this drum submix, as I start to assign it, it keeps the position of each element as defined by the panners in the main fader. It keeps them in the same place on this drums compressed channel, which is extremely important. You don't want to create confusion in terms of your panning positions of the various elements. Again, I'm going to use that Apply to Selected key command, that Shift Option. I'm going to use that while I toggle on that pre-fader. Now, pre-fader is, again, essential because that allows this level to be completely independent from the level in the main mixer. I could take that main mix level of that kick drum right out and still be able to assign kick drum to that drums compressed channel if I wanted to. I won't want to do that. It's not how I want to work that effect. But what that illustrates to you is that I have complete control, a finite control, independent from the main mixer of what I send to that drums compressed channel. I'll go back over to that drums compressed channel and I'm going to add a dynamics processor. I'm going to use this Kramer Pi stereo compressor. A legendary bus compressor, in my mind, works particularly well on drums, and that's the one I'm going to use. As in our example when we did the bass, the solo track parallel compression tutorial, counterintuitively, I'm going to make this compressor work very, very hard, even though a purported gain of using parallel compression is the ability to not radically alter the dynamics, the natural dynamics. But counterintuitively, to achieve that, you actually have to make the compressor work quite hard. So I'm going to go ahead and haul this threshold level down very, very far down. So I'm going to achieve 20 or maybe even more dB of compression. I'm going to go ahead and put that drums compressed channel in solo, and I'll roll it. I've already assigned some level here to the kick. You can see I'm really slamming down, getting 12, maybe 15 dB of gain reduction there, which was a ridiculous amount, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and start adding other elements of the submix into this compressor. You can hear the snare really snaps as it hits that heavily compressed, that's set up to heavily compressed compressor. The hi-hats always sound good in the parallel compression chain in my mind. I'm going to quickly, without too much finesse, add a little bit of everything to this submix just for the purposes of demonstration. As I've mentioned, if I was working on this track, I would be very, very precisely fine-tuning each element so I have that compressor working exactly the way I want. It starts to get exciting to me as you bring up the levels of your overhead mics. They will really, really work into that over-compressed signal quite nicely. You get almost that reverse envelope on those cymbal splashes, that very Beatlesque sound. And if you like that sound and want to increase it, you just decrease your decay time, and it allows that envelope to bloom even more slowly. I really love the sound of parallel compression on my room mics. I like it so much that more often than not, I will set up a parallel compression channel for that element in and of itself in the submix. And you can hear that's really, really extremely compressed, very devoid of a dynamic, but you can hear, I think, a bit of snap and crack and pop that's missing from the track that's not compressed. And here we go. That's completely uncompressed. That's my submixed. Not sounding too bad, but as I slowly bring up this parallel compression, there is a sweet spot that we'll find as we go through our mix process where that really, 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 really starts to make things happen. Now, what I might do, and I have done in the past, is put a EQ on the back side of the compressor in that channel. And that EQ I would use to bring out some of the high frequencies that are attenuated by overcompression. It's a well-known artifact. Let's just hear what this sounds like with those with those bass tracks that we put parallel compression on in part 1 of this video tutorial. And with a little bit of tweaking, I think we've got something here that could really start to work really well when we start to mix in the rest of the elements. I'm not unhappy with that. Now, to further extend this concept of parallel compression, you might not even want to use a compressor at all. You may want to use a saturation plugin. Some people, and I've seen people do this, is they will take, particularly on vocals, and set up multiple parallel compression channels. And what they do with that is by employing EQs, they'll focus each channel on a very, very specific range of the sound spectrum. Maybe one for the lower end, one for the mids, maybe another one for the high mids, and another one again for the very high end. I've seen people use up to 5 parallel compression chains to get the sound they're after on a vocal channel, a single vocal source. Just something to consider as you start to play with the parallel compression in your mix. I hope you've enjoyed this 2-part video tutorial on parallel compression. If you have, please subscribe to Recording Magazine's YouTube channel for more videos like this one. Follow Recording Magazine on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and please subscribe to Recording Magazine either digitally or in hard copy print edition. I'm Bill Stunt. Thanks for watching.